back to my channel. I'm Rachel, the owner and creator here at the Eclectic Cottage in Spokane, Washington. Today is Friday and I have another thrift flip for you guys. And let me just say, I'm really sorry I missed Tuesday's video. I was already behind and then ran into some technical problems and there was just no way I was gonna get that video uploaded on Tuesday. So I decided to kind of just take a step back, regroup, give myself a little bit of grace and have the video for you guys today. So without further ado, let's get to the 3 projects that I finished for you guys for today's video. My first project is this cute little ceramic owl that I picked up at the thrift store not too terribly long ago. And this silly little thing wasn't exactly a color that I was in love with. I kind of liked the design on it, but it also had a couple of chips in it. So I decided to give it a makeover, and I'm starting by giving it a good base coat of Rustoleum 2X spray in matte white. It was a windy day, so getting the spray to stick to this owl and not to me was definitely difficult, but I managed to get it done finally. And then I brought it back inside, let it dry, and then I began to paint it. And I am using DIY's Apothecary for this, and I am stippling or pouncing the paint on with my stiff bristle brush, and I am just going to be putting 2 good coats of the Apothecary paint over that white spray paint on this little owl. Now, if you guys have been watching me for a while, you know that I normally just leave my little ceramic figurines all one color. But in this case, since this owl didn't have a whole lot of detail other than his big eyes, I decided to go ahead and repaint them to bring that detail back out. So I am going in with DIY's Crinoline, and then once that is done and dry, I'm going to paint his little pupils with DIY's layered chocolate so that his eyes are all back to the way they were before I painted him. Now, as I said earlier, I really liked the detail that this owl had on it before I painted it, so I wanted to try and kind of recreate that look. So I grabbed out my transfer set called Tiny Flowers. This is by Redesign with Prima. I cut out a few of the flowers, figured out about where I wanted to put them, and then I began applying those to the owl just one at a time. Now with this curved surface, I had to be really careful, and so I would press the top of the flower into the paint and then just kind of let the rest of it hang there, and I worked my way down to the bottom of the owl, applying the transfer as I went and peeling back the vellum very carefully. This made it so that I didn't end up with any bubbles or weird little areas in the transfer as I tried to put it down. And once I was happy with the transfers, it was time to seal my paint. And as I've mentioned many times before, DIY paint is porous and can be reactivated with water, so you always want to make sure to seal it. And in this case, I grabbed my DIY's white wax and just applied it with a soft bristle brush in a nice even coat all over the owl. And then I took a dry shop towel and carefully brushed back any excess wax. Once that was done, this little owl is finished, and I love how he turned out. My second project is this kind of plain and boring little tote that I've had in my stash for a while now, and I decided I wanted to give this thing kind of a simple makeover using some DIY cottage color paint and some decoupage paper by Roycycled Treasures. So I'm starting here with the cottage color called Pacific, which is this beautiful blue. And the great thing about the cottage colors is that when you're finished painting, there's no need to seal because this has a built-in sealer in it. So I went over the inside and both ends of this little tote with 3 good coats of the Pacific paint. And once that was done and dry, I went ahead and painted both of the sides of this little tote with the DIY cottage color called White Linen. This is to prepare those 2 areas for the decoupage paper. Now, as careful as I tried to be with the white paint, I accidentally flicked a little bit in on the inside of this box. And so when I was done, the inside had little white speckles that I needed to get rid of. So I ended up grabbing some 220 grit sandpaper and just lightly sanding the inside of the box. I also kind of went around the edges and just made sure everything was nice and clean. And then I ended up going over the inside and both ends of the box again with 1 coat of the Pacific paint, just to be on the safe side. Once I'd finished cleaning up my mess and my box was dry again, it was time to move on to the decoupage process. And for that, I chose a beautiful paper by Roycycled Treasures called Numbered Collage. I really like this paper because of all of the colors in it, and I thought it would be a perfect addition to a summertime display. So I start here by misting my paper, and then you can see I'm just kind of holding it. That's because my table's a little dirty and I didn't want to pick up any crud from my table and put it onto my decoupage medium. So then I used liquid patina by DIY. I put a nice even coat of that over the white, and then I carefully smoothed out the paper over that medium. I had cut my paper just a little bit bigger than the side of the tote so that I could cut that off later. And once it was down, I went over it with another good coat of the liquid patina. Once the liquid patina was completely dry, I grabbed some 150 grit sandpaper and in a downward sweeping motion, I just went around the entire box and sanded off any excess paper. So sorry about the blurry mark on my screen here, you guys. I have a feeling my hands were wet when I put my phone into the stand and I accidentally got some water onto my screen. Once I finished with the one side of the box, I picked out another section of the paper to cut out for the flip side, and just the same procedure. I cut out my paper just a little bit bigger than the side again, and then I moved on to decoupaging that down onto this little tote. Again, just laying down a nice coat of the liquid patina, carefully placing my paper, and this time, instead of getting the goop all over my hands, I decided to smooth the paper down with my brush and applying 1 coat of liquid patina over the top. Then again, once it's dry, just using that 150 grit sandpaper to sand all of the edges smooth. And as a last step, I am painting the bottom of this little tote with 2 coats of the Pacific paint. My third and final project is this galvanized coal scuttle that I got from a friend of mine. This thing had been painted orange at some point, and then somebody went over it with a creamy colored spray paint, but the paint had come out textured apparently, and I didn't want texture, so I grabbed some sandpaper and made sure that this was really smooth before I went in with my own coat of spray. For that, I'm using a Rustoleum 2X. I think this is called Heirloom White. It's a little bit creamy, but it's definitely a nice neutral color. And I just wanted to start with a nice fresh base for this. Now, I'd already kind of decided on a direction for this piece, and I knew I wanted to paint it a sky blue color, and I was going to try to achieve a crackle finish. And the way I was going to do that was before my spray paint is completely dry. So while it's still tacky, I'm going to apply Sweet Pickins Milk Paint without any extra bond in it to hopefully get that crackle finish. And of course, while I am painting, I am going to actually heat the paint with my hairdryer as I go to help speed along the crackle process. Now, initially, I had planned on just using Bluebird for this, but when I mixed up the paint, it was a really light shade. So I grabbed some Moody blue and just added some of that in with the Bluebird, and I came up with this beautiful sky blue color that I love. Now, like I said, my spray paint here is just very lightly tacky, so it's just a little bit sticky to the touch, and I am going over this with one coat of my custom color as quickly as I can possibly get the paint on so that I can grab my hairdryer and begin drying that paint. And this is kind of where the magic starts to happen. I know it's really impossible to pick it up on the camera, but as I am drying this paint, it is starting to crackle, and you can start seeing the white spray paint from underneath just a little bit through this beautiful blue color. For my second coat of paint, I am going to be painting in sections and just kind of laying down a decently thick layer of paint. I really don't want to have to go over this a third time. So I'm trying to get really good coverage, just section by section, laying that paint down, smoothing it out with my brush as best I can, and then hitting it again with my hair dryer to heat that paint up and get it dry and crackled. And here's a quick close-up shot of what this actually looks like when the paint is dry. I thought this sky blue color would be the perfect background for some sunflowers. So I grabbed out this gorgeous transfer set by Redesign with Prima called Sunflower Fields, picked out one swag, placed it where I wanted it on my can, and then I peeled back a little bit of the backing, folded it back, and then stuck my transfer down in just that section. And then I peeled the rest of the backer off just to make sure that it all stayed in place as I started the transfer process. The shape of this piece definitely made it a little bit more of a challenge to lay the transfer down, but I just went ahead and started at one end, just rubbing that transfer down into the paint, slowly peeling back that vellum, and just smoothing out the transfer as I went around the can. So I just kept doing this process, and then I would go back and make sure everything was perfectly laid down. If I pulled up a little piece of the transfer with the vellum, I just laid it back down and re-rubbed that spot until all of my transfer was applied. And I just kept working my way around this piece until the entire transfer was adhered. Once I was finished, I used my fingers to burnish this transfer in really well, making sure that there were no air bubbles or lifted areas of the transfer before I moved on to sealing my paint. Now to seal this paint, I normally would use Sweet Pickins oil wax. However, I recently used DIY's white wax over the Sweet Pickins milk paint, and I really like the result. So I decided to go ahead and do that on this piece as well. So I am going in with one good even coat of DIY's white wax, just applying that with my soft bristle brush in a nice even layer, and then wiping back the excess carefully with a dry shop towel. I love the effect of the white wax over the Sweet Pickins milk paint, and in this case, it even helped to highlight all of the beautiful detail in the crackle on this piece. In the end, I absolutely love how this coal scuttle came out, and I hope you guys like it too. From here for today, you guys. I hope you liked my projects and I hope you enjoyed the video. I don't know if you've noticed, but I've been on a little bit of a blue kick lately. I'm really enjoying the blue tones, although I still really do love my greens. So we'll see what I do on Tuesday's video. I have a feeling it's going to be a little bit of a mix of both. Anyway, if you did like my video, please remember to give it a thumbs up. I so appreciate that. And if you haven't already, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel. Then just hit that little notification bell so you don't miss anything. And don't forget to drop a comment below and let me know which of the projects in today's video your favorite was. Just a quick reminder too, any of the paint products you saw me use today can be purchased through me at my website, and that's www.theeclecticcottagesspokane.com. It's listed in the description box below as well. For Tuesday's video, I am working on a cute little round side table that I thrifted just not too terribly long ago. Like I said, the color is still a little bit up in the air. I have a feeling it is going to be a really pretty blue-green though, so we'll see. I hope you guys will join me for that video. I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. It's Memorial Day weekend. We're supposed to get some rain and we're going camping, so we'll see how it goes. But anyway, I will see you guys back here on Tuesday. Thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate it. Have a great weekend and we'll see you then. Bye.